Hello, welcome to another Ridercam TV video, and today, courtesy of Damrels, where dreams are made in the Indian Queens in Cornwall as far as bikes are concerned, I'm out on the Suzuki GSX S1000GT. This bike, wow, that's all I can say. I've been riding it this morning, or today, about 40-50 miles. And I tell you what, it is such a nice bike to ride. So it's about 226 kilos, I think, something like that, 226 kilos. But it's got about 150, I think, brake horsepower. I'll put all the figures up on the screen. But it's a sports tourer from Suzuki, 1000cc, and it just wants to go. It just wants you to be riding it at a nice fair pace. So this is a national speed limit in the UK, 60-mile-an-hour limit, and it just rides so well. And I tell you what, tipping it into corners is a breeze. That 226 kilos, or that 200 and something kilos, just disappears when you're riding it. Just disappears. It's such an effortless bike to ride. I was really quite shocked because it looks quite heavy. And when you get on it and you're manoeuvring it around, it feels quite heavy. But when you're riding it, oh gosh, it is insane to ride. It's lovely. Now, I noticed talking to Mark at Damrels, they were out on the track day when they were launching it, along with the Hayabusa, and this was tearing the Hayabusa up on the corners. Obviously the straights are a little bit different, but the corners, it was tearing the Hayabusa apart, apparently. So seating position, really nice seating position, and I say really nice seating position. So the handlebars, just the right width apart. I don't feel like my arms are too close together, too far apart. I also don't feel that the handlebars are tipped too straight, making my thumb ache when you're gripping the throttle. On some bikes I've noticed that if they're too straight, you're kind of almost working against your ergonomics of your hand, but this is just right. The throttle response is incredible, really smooth, inline 4-cylinder, just purrs along. I'm sure you can hear that purring along. Now at 25 miles an hour, 26 miles an hour ish, third gear, I could drop it into second gear, and I do get a slight vibration through the foot pegs, but nothing that's going to make your feet or your hands through the handlebars go numb. Nothing at all like that. It's just really smooth, really smooth. There's a bit of overrun with it because the engine braking, as you would imagine with an inline 4, is not as good as a triple or a twin, just in the makeup of the engine really. There is some engine braking, but not as much as those four mentioned bikes. So seating position, top half of me feels like I'm touring in a sit-up and beg bike. Bottom half feels like I'm on a sports bike because my knees are bent in a little bit more, like you would be on a sports bike. I am leaning forward ever so slightly, but there's no weight on the handlebars or on my wrists whatsoever. It's really quite a comfortable place to be. So now we're in a national speed limit. Let's see what the road holds for us. So the mirrors up front, mirrors at first glance I thought, oh, they're not so good because they're like sticky outy. Am I going to see all of my hands? Am I going to be able to see what's behind? And I was wrong. First impressions were wrong. They actually look good on the bike, but the shape of them means that I can see my hand slightly, a little bit of my elbow, but I've got an amazing view behind me and all round really. So where I'm sat, I'm able to see all around me with particular ease, to be honest. There's no issue with having to move arms out the way so that I can see what's going on whatsoever. The ride is quite a firm ride, but also quite a soft ride. I'd say somewhere in the middle really. So I can feel the bumps of the road, but I can't feel the bumps in the road that are making me think that this is an unenjoyable bike to ride. In fact, quite the opposite. It's making me feel that this is a really enjoyable bike to ride. And I've been riding it for a good couple of hours, and I've not felt achy, not had any issues with how I'm sat or any of the controls. And in fact, getting on this bike, the one thing that I've noticed is that the switch gear is in just the right place. I know exactly where it is and I've not had to fish around for it at all, not once. So I got a nice overtake here, look. So I'm going to overtake them with ease. I mean, look at that. Just such a smooth bike. It is incredible. And the power that this has got to deliver is way, way above what I would do on a main road or on a public road. I think this would be as much home on the twisties in Spain, up over the Pico Mountains, or the Sierra Nevada down at the bottom of Spain, twisty roads anywhere in the world, as well as it would be on a racetrack, and as well as it would be commuting to and from work, as well as having a bit of a ride out with your mates on a Sunday. Because that weight, that 226 kilos, just disappears. It doesn't feel like you're riding a bike of that weight at all. It's really quite magical what they've done with this bike, to be honest. Slow speed manoeuvring is an absolute joy because that weight is totally gone. Totally gone. And the weight seems to be that low down on the bike that it's so well behaved. It's confidence inspiring, actually. Now this TFT screen, it's a very bright day today and not once have I had an issue seeing it, so I don't know whether it's got a sensor in there to dim and make it brighter depending on the situation, you know, around you, or the lighting, but everything's there and it's like an 8K screen. It isn't, it's a TFT screen, but it looks like it's something like a 4K, 8K. The definition is so good, you can make out everything on that dial without having to strain your eyes at all. Now this one's got loads of different modes on it, and I'm sure there's loads of reviews that will talk about the different modes, but this bike, the TFT screen, has got connectivity for your smartphone. So what you can do is you can connect your smartphone, you can take phone calls through it, you know, from it, you can make calls, but you can also have maps on this as well. So you can have your navigation from your phone showing on the screen, which I think is a brilliant thing for touring bikes. Of course, if you wanted to fit another sat nav, there's not really any space, so you'd have to fit it down there, but having that functionality on the screen, wow, amazing. And up front, it's uncluttered. You know where everything is. You've got your cruise control buttons on the left hand side to set, your indicators, your horn, all your menu buttons, your flashes, right hand side, your hazards, your start, stop, and your activation for the cruise control. So nothing's out of reach. It's really nice. And my legs are holding on to that tank quite naturally. I'm not having to try and hold on to the tank. It's just happening naturally. It's really quite a sublime position to be in because your body naturally follows how they've designed it. It's really quite good how they've done that. I'm about 5'9", 5'10", so I have got a lot of wind coming at me, but I'm wearing the wrong helmet for this sort of bike. I'm wearing an adventure helmet with a peak, which isn't great. Because it catches all the wind. But I dare say for me, I would have liked to have seen a screen that was slightly taller, because I imagine if I had a pillion and I was going touring on this bike, to have that pillion up on the back pillion seat, they're probably sitting about 5-6 inches higher than the bike rider. So they're going to be higher, get caught in that wind. So I would have liked to have seen, you might be able to get aftermarket, I would have liked to have seen a bigger screen just to chuck that up and over a little bit more. But you get used to it. It's just so smooth. Just so smooth. It's like spreading anchor butter. Thank you, car. Obviously didn't look. It's like spreading anchor butter on smooth toast. I know it's a strange analogy, but it really is nice. For all those people that like all those smooth things, this is the smooth bike for you. And I've just seen the TFT change its display actually, so it changed to a dark mode when we went into that tunnel. So it's obviously got a sensor in there to make sure that you can see everything right, and that works really, really well. So let's see what it's like on this dual carriageway if we can get straight out. Quick look over my shoulder. Right, let's see what it'll do. Very nice indeed, very nice. And the delivery of the power is as smooth as that butter that I was talking about. It really does want to just keep you going, really nice and smooth. You know, look at that, 68 miles an hour in 6th gear on the dual carriageway, doing just under 5,000 revs. It red lines at like 12,000 revs, so the bike's not actually doing any work. This is where it likes to be. It's really quite a nice place to be. Strangely enough, at that sort of speed, it was becoming a little bit vibey on my right hand on the throttle, and my hand was going slightly numb. So it might be because, you know, it's a bike that I'm not used to, and I'm perhaps finding myself gripping hold of it a little bit too tight. But I think that's something manageable, something that you'd get used to. But it certainly doesn't feel like a touring bike. It doesn't feel like people would often think, oh, this is a really boring touring bike. It feels like a sports tourer, which is exactly what they've made it to be. It feels like you're on a sports bike, but you're able to tour on it. You're not down here, hunched over, you're sat in just the right position, just for it to be really comfortable. And that addition for those that TFT screen to display maps and things, incredible. And the slow speed maneuvering is just awesome. So we're here today with the Suzuki GSX S1000GT, and boy does it not disappoint. This is an awesome machine. So in the UK it's about 17-18 grand, and you can get the GSX S1000GT Plus model, and with that Plus model you get panniers. So I'm going to have a bit of a talk about the bike, because what a bike to ride. So I've taken this bike out, done 40-50 miles I suppose, courtesy of Damrels, so thank you to Damrels. But what a good bike. The first thing that struck me was how it looks. I mean, look at it. I mean, the angles of this bike, the way it looks. I mean, clearly it looks understated, but when you look closely you can see all the bits that they've put on it that make it look really special. And if this parked in a car park or outside a bike showroom, or even riding along the road, you're going to see lots and lots of bikes, and this will blend in, but there's something about it that will make you look at it, really like it. So this bike, as we was riding along, it's got 152 PS power, so horsepower. It's a 999cc, 106 newton meters of torque, which is just immense. And it only weighs 226 kilos. Now when I was riding it, my GSA is 270 kilos-ish, something like that. And it felt like that bike. Felt quite heavy to manoeuvre, but the weight is so well distributed around the bike that when you're actually riding it, that weight goes away. It's almost like floating on air. Really lovely. So the seating position on it, put the phone away, the seating position, I found really nice. So you can see that my torso is almost like being in an armchair. But as I was riding, I realised that I'm slightly forward a little bit. No pressure on here. I still have the chicken wings, because if you can't do chicken wings, you're going to get numb hands and numb arms. But sat here, you're slightly forward, and it's a really nice place to be. So my legs, I think from the top half, this is more like a sit up and beg adventure type touring bike. From here down, it feels almost like a sports bike, because my legs they feel a lot more tucked in, so it's more of a cute angle here, and the pegs and the pedals are kind of a lot more down, whereas my bike, I'd be sat there and they would be there. These are wanting you to lean into the bike and play with the bike and be at one with the bike. So where I'm sat, quite naturally my knees are gripping the tank, and the tank's like moulded around my knees, which is really clever, really good design feature, because all the wind, I didn't have any wind at all from the bottom of the bike all the way up to about my helmet. So for me, 5'9", 5'10", adventure helmet isn't the right helmet to be wearing for this with a peak, but it was catching a lot of the air. So I dare say if I'd leant down, that would have put me in really quite a nice bubble of clean air. The screen is really small. which I think if you can get a bigger one for proper long distance touring, I would be more happy with a taller screen, just to chuck that air up out the way. But where I'm sat, I was looking at the wing mirrors, and the wing mirrors looked atrocious when I sat on the bike first, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? But they're in the right place. They've got two movements, so you can move them up here just off the mirror, but you can also move them at the bottom, so you can actually turn them, pull them in, that sort of thing, so you can get them set up just for you. Now on the mirror I've got a view of my hand, I've got a view of my elbow, but only just, but I've got a wide view of what's going on behind me, so they're really, really good, both sides, really, really nice. The switch gear is really easy to find. Not once, out of all those 40-50 miles that I've ridden today on this bike, not once have I been fishing around to find the indicator, and not once have I hit the horn by accident. So it's a real testament to Suzuki that they've put stuff in the right place so that you're not fishing around and you're not making a mistake and hitting the wrong button when you least expect it, making a real tit of yourself when you're beeping rather than indicating, or having to look away from the road to see what you're doing. I thought that was really good. No vibration through the handlebars at all, although did have a bit of vibration through the pegs, but only when I was doing slow speed with a little bit of high revs, just to keep that most responsive gear. The brake levers and the clutch lever's really light, and the clutch bar on this one is really quite close to the edge, so you can adjust them. There's a big adjuster there, but it took me by surprise the first couple of times at how quickly it wants to take you away, quickly it wants to give you that power and all those torques and all that horsepower and just take you away. But what a pleasant place to be. My arms aren't too far apart, they're not too close together. It's just a really nice, comfortable place to be. And then we get to the seat. So the seat is really well sculptured inside the frame of the bike. It's a really nice small seat, but it's really comfortable. I thought when I first looked at it, it almost looked like a bench. It looked like it was going to be one of those really horrible, really thin seats from a sports bike, but it wasn't. It was really comfy. And what I like about the seats is the pillion seat intrudes into the rider's seat a little bit, but right where your coccyx would be, so you know where you are on the seat, so you're not sliding all about, but you can move to and fro. There's a little bit of movement that you can move to and fro just to get your positioning right when you're doing your corners and that sort of stuff. Nice pillion seat. And then on the back, there's two of these racks. So if you are taking a pillion, really substantial racks for the pillion to hold on to. So looking at the styling of the bike, I mean, this styling is immense. I mean, look at all these angles, these little bits of diffusers to diffuse the air, but also to please the eye when you're looking at the bike. It just looks something different, but also something like the same as what you would see in other bikes. It's really quite strange what they've done here. I think they've made a bike that almost looks like the Triumph Sprint, but then when you see up close you realise it's a Suzuki, and you realise that this looks like something out of Tron. It looks like something really futuristic. Angles everywhere. And then we come down to the engine. The engine looks really lovely, and I tell you what, the engine, really smooth, pleasurable engine. And I know a lot of people say that sort of thing and it doesn't make any sense, but when you're riding along, it's really smooth. There's no lumpiness, there's no wanting to pull, there's no edginess of the bike. It's just, do you want some power, Toby? Yes, I do. Well, here you go. It's really smooth. It's like spreading butter. It's really, really smooth. And likewise, with this sort of engine, because it's not like a twin, the engine braking isn't so good, but that's what you like about these bikes. So there's a bit of an overrun, so there's a bit of a change in how I was riding, because I'm used to my twin just slowing me down. That opposed twin in the BMW is awesome for engine braking, but it has got some engine braking. Then we come to the exhaust pipe, and the exhaust pipe I think is really lovely. It's almost like a brushed aluminium effect, and it really looks in tune with the rest of the styling of the bike. I really, really like that. Pillion's got their own little little footrest as well, that's quite high up. So this is one of those bikes, and I go back to the screen, I would have liked to have seen a bit of a bigger screen, because that pillion's going to be sat probably about 6 inches higher than the rider, so they're going to be able to see what's going on. But are they going to get caught up in that untidy wind? Are they going to have clean air with that screen? I'm not quite sure. We're going to have a look at this screen. Now, this screen, when you turn it on, loads of different colours, looks really smart, get a lovely animation of the Suzuki logo, and then it comes on and hits you with this amazing screen. Now, when I was riding, I was talking about the fact that this almost looks like it's a 4K TFT LCD, you know. Have a look at the specs to see exactly what sort of screen it is, but this looks like a HD 4K or even an 8K. I mean, the definition of these fonts and the graphics is really, really lovely. The rev count is really nice, but what I really like about it is they've put the speedometer, how fast you're going, right in the middle, so you've got everything going on around you. And when I was riding, I didn't find any of it too busy. It was just the right information at the right time in the right place, and the screen was really bright. Now today, if I pan up, it's really, really bright. Really, really lovely sunny day, and not once did I have problems reading the screen. So I don't know whether it's got something in there that has got like a light sensor that shows whether it's bright or dark and adjusts the brightness of the screen to the conditions, but it really, really was not an issue when I was riding. Now, I talked a little bit about these switch gear. It's really good. I mean, the hazard switch is actually a clicky switch. To start and stop, they're actually clicky switches. These switches over here, they give you good feedback when you're pressing them. You probably hear that. You get really, really good feedback from all these buttons, so you know that you've pressed it. And like I said, when I was sat on the bike, not once was I fishing around to try and find these and hitting the horn instead of the indicators. It was just in the right place. Let's hear what the horn's like. So, loudish horn, not too bad. Would have liked to have had like a sound bomb on it. That would have been really good. And this bike comes with a key. Now, lots of people have keyless ride. I love keyless ride, but the advantage of having one of these is if you've got the key in the bike and it's running, you know you haven't lost it. And it's got all of the Suzuki stuff with the transponders and stuff in the key as well. And it's a very, very long key, I must admit. It's like one of those things that you go to the dentist with and they stick in your mouth, isn't it? Those needles, they're about the size of a bus. Right, so let's have a look at the lights. So these lights, look at that, that's really quite special, isn't it? So if I put the headlights on, look at those lights, LED lights, and they look really mean. See how bright they are as I move the camera, see how bright they are. Really, really nice. So these lights are not only LED, but so are the indicators. See how bright those indicators are. Even against the brightness of that white light, you can still see them indicating. Really, really good. LEDs all round. And when we look at the styling under here, so you've got all of your 4 pipes there, you've got your radiator right up there, so there's no guard there, but if you notice, the fender is actually long enough, I think, to stop the stuff flicking up onto your radiator. So you might think about a fender extender just to stop it damaging the pipes, but you have got a belly pan that's all integral into the design of it. Massive Brembo brakes and 2 discs either side, really, really lovely to see, and the brakes were spectacular. You could almost stop on a sixpence. So we're coming along the side of the bike and look at that design. It's really quite funky, isn't it? You've got LED lights on the back, not only an LED light, brake light and running light, but indicators as well. And if you have a look inside, it almost looks like it's a beehive. So they're actually angling that light to get the best effect from back here. And then we come round to the left hand side of the bike, or the near side. Look at that chain, big beefy chain, really nice looking chain. I'm a bit of a convert to a chain because of our recent videos, which is really, really good, but nothing wrong with the chain at all. And look at that, you get one of these not tail tidies, they're almost like fender extenders or that sort of thing coming right out here to keep all the dirt from going up there. Needless to say, the dirt is going to go in there, but they've done a really good job about sticking that there. And then look at this. This is your seating position. This is your office if you've got this bike, and doesn't that look sweet? One thing I nearly forgot is up the front here, you've got a USB switch in there, or USB socket. So that's actually stuck in there. So it's obviously hardwired in, rather than it being like a cigarette lighter or a power outlet that you stick something in. So that's really good, because you'd only have to get an adapter anyway. So you've got one USB charger there, which is really good, with a lovely rubber cap to keep it waterproof there. So the Suzuki GSX S1000GT or GT Plus with the panniers is about an extra £1,000 here in the UK. What an incredible bike. Not only do I love the seating position, I love the power, love the smoothness, and above all, because you always see first and you like what you see first, and then you get to love it, don't you, with all the foibles and all the bits and bobs. The shape of it is just insane. It looks like a Triumph Sprint, that sort of thing, but then when you take a second look, you realise that it's a completely different bike and a completely new bike. This is an amazing bike. Now this is set up as a touring bike, a sports tourer. Like I say, I felt very much like the bottom half was sports, top half was tourer. With the panniers, perfect tourer. I mean, I think this would really suit a rider, a pillion couple, that sort of thing, or a single rider. Chuck your stuff in the back boxes and off you go. I think commuting, I tell you what, it's not very wide. Filtering wouldn't be a problem, quite a breeze. Slow speed moving, really lovely bike to do that on. So smooth, effortless. Like I say, it's like 220 odd kilos, but when you're riding it at slow speed, it feels like you're riding on air, and it's so easy to control, and the power is immense. It really is lovely. Would I buy one? I would, actually. If I was in the market for a 4-cylinder bike that was really smooth, that could compete with the BMW, but I like my BMW, so I wouldn't get rid of that one. I would buy it if I was looking for a really good long-range tourer, but also something that I could use on a daily basis. This ticks a lot of the boxes. And for the people that like sports bikes, I think come and try this, because it feels like a sports bike when you're riding. From there down, sports bike. You can hug down, pretend you're on a sports bike. It's certainly got the power of a sports bike, but all that in a touring package. I think it's a really good bike. So thanks very much to Dan Rules again for letting us take the bike out, see what it's like, give you a bit of a review. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.